19th-century literature ran on masks. By around 1830, 4 out of 5 novels in Britain appeared anonymously, or under a pen name. That secrecy shaped who got read, what got sold, and how entire genres, especially the Gothic, crept under the skin. Today I'm making the case that the pseudonym is the century's most powerful literary tool, a shield, a brand, and a mood machine. Quick grounding. Pseudonyms weren't new. Voltaire wasn't born Voltaire. François-Marie Arouet picked the sharper name for battle. Molière was Jean-Baptiste Poquelin until the stage demanded a persona. In English fiction, anonymity was standard by the late 18th century. By a lady on the title page meant polite respectability. Jane Austen launched Sense and Sensibility in 1811 as By a Lady. Readers accepted the dance. So why keep the masks on into Victorian times? 3 pressures: gatekeeping, risk, and branding. First, gatekeeping. The industry judged women before it read them. In 1837, the poet laureate Robert Southey told a teenage Charlotte Brontë that literature cannot be the business of a woman's life, and it ought not to be. That line wasn't advice, it was a door slamming. The Brontë sisters replied with a trick: Currer, Ellis, and Acton Bell. Charlotte later said they felt authoresses are liable to be looked on with prejudice. When Jane Eyre exploded, critics sniffed around her gender. She told George Henry Lewis that reviewers measured her by what they thought becoming to my sex, and she wished they still believed Currer Bell was a man. Mary Ann Evans built a different escape hatch: George Eliot. She wanted her fiction judged as serious, not filed under lady novelist. Dickens wrote to George Eliot in 1858, praising the work and confessing he detected womanly touches. Evans called the disguise the iron mask of my incognito, useful but heavy. Second, risk. Pseudonyms dodged censors, libel suits, and social blowback. Voltaire's entire career test drove that tactic. Percy Shelley printed The Necessity of Atheism anonymously in 1811 and paid the price with expulsion. Byron's Don Juan's first cantos arrived without his name in 1819. Everyone guessed anyway, which tells you how pseudonyms could also fan scandal. In France, Henri de Balzac started out churning pot boilers under names like Horace de Saint-Aubin, a firewall between youthful trash and the towering comédie humaine he wanted his name to stand for. Newspapers and magazines supercharged the habit. Reviews ran unsigned. Essays appeared under house voices. Charles Dickens debuted as Boz, a family nickname twisted out of Moses by a toddler's mispronunciation. Across the Atlantic, Samuel Clemens took a riverboat call, Mark Twain, 2 fathoms, to brand his voice as distinctly American. Third, branding and persona. A pen name lets a writer split into departments. Chekhov published his early comic sketches as Antosha Chekhonte, then signed his serious stories Anton Chekhov. The Russian revolutionary writer Alexei Peshkov chose Maxim Gorky, Maxim the Bitter, to advertise his themes of hardship and revolt. In Paris, Amandine Dupin became George Sand in 1831, borrowed partly from her collaborator Jules Sandeau, then lived the role loudly: men's clothes, salon debates, Chopin at the piano. Closer to home, Mrs. Gaskell and Miss Mulock turned marital and maiden titles into authorial uniforms. Late in the century, William Sharp flipped the script entirely and invented a female cousin, Fiona MacLeod, for Celtic romances that didn't fit his public self. Now, the fun bit: how the mask juices Gothic atmosphere. The genre loves uncertainty, forged documents, anonymous editors, and the feeling that truth is peeking through a crack. Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto pretended to be a translation of an old Italian manuscript by a fake editor. That move became a Gothic reflex. In the 19th century, it thrived. Picture 1818. A slim volume called Frankenstein shows up without an author. The preface is by Percy Shelley, so the rumor mill roars. A woman, impossible. A man, scandalous. The anonymity amplifies the uncanny. Who stitched this monster together? When Mary Shelley took credit later, the book was already a legend. Or take 1819's The Vampyre. It hit the new monthly magazine with Lord Byron's name on it. Sales soared. But the story was by his doctor, John Polidori. A misattribution created by the mask, and it changed vampire fiction forever. James Hogg's The Private Memoirs and Confessions of a Justified Sinner landed anonymously, wrapped in the faux editorial frame of found papers. That double vision, editor and sinner, feels eerily authentic because the author is also hidden. Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu loved anonymity too. He often placed ghost stories in magazines without his name, then folded them into novels like Uncle Silas. and the Penny Dreadfuls, Varney the Vampire and the String of Pearls ran without author credits, now attributed to James Malcolm Rymer or Thomas Peckett Prest. The lack of a signature wasn't a bug, it was part of the chill. There's another audience effect the mask triggers, detective fever. Readers and critics play guess the author. Dickens tried to unmask George Eliot by style. Reviewers sifted Wuthering Heights for evidence that Ellis Bell was a woman or a man with an axe to grind. Identity becomes a parlor game that fuels sales and, frankly, keeps the work on people's lips. The market loved the mystery as much as the books. Did anonymity fade? Slowly. As women's fiction turned profitable, publishers started caring less about becoming to my sex and more about circulation. The mask didn't vanish, it pivoted. It became a marketing lever. Late Victorians used initials, RLS, AC Doyle, to create sleek brands. And the logic hasn't died. In 1997, Joanne Rowling's publisher nudged her toward J.K. Rowling to avoid scaring off boys. Same tactic, new century. So here's my stance. The 19th century pseudonym isn't a side note, it's infrastructure. It gave women a way past gatekeepers. It let radicals and satirists publish without a noose around the neck. It let big names compartmentalize work. And for the Gothic, the mask wasn't only on the author, it soaked into the page, made editors into characters, manuscripts into tombs, and uncertainty into a narrative device. One last puzzle for you. Does knowing the real name help you read better, or do you prefer the mask? Drop a quick answer in the comments, pick a favorite pen name, or tell me whether Frankenstein hits harder anonymous or signed Mary Shelley. If you enjoyed this ramble through the masquerade, subscribe for more raids on the 19th shelf. Until next time, keep your candles lit and your prefaces loaded.